Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled Step into the Twilight Zone, Finding the Courage to Be. Now, I wonder if you've ever got the lyrics of a pop song wrong, and by getting them wrong, the whole meaning of the song is misunderstood. Well, I have, and so have many other people over the years, and I've heard all kinds of hilarious versions of songs completely miscapturing what the heck the song was about. Well, I recently discovered that I've been singing a song wrongly for years. And the song, for 40 years probably actually, or something like that. The song is Twilight World by Swing Out Sister. And I've always known it as Twilight Zone, despite my brother having the single when we were growing up. So I was actually searching for this record, the lyrics of this record this week. And when I did a Google search, I wondered why it didn't immediately come up. Other songs called Twilight Zone did, but not this one. Well, there's a simple answer. It's not called Twilight Zone, it's called Twilight World, and it totally changes the meaning of the song, but there you go. But you may remember some of the lyrics. I'll try and sing it here. Don't be fooled by love songs and lonely hearts. You're living in a twilight world. Don't be fooled by love songs and lonely hearts. Don't give in to the twilight world. So not Twilight Zone, that you don't want to be fooled by love. So doesn't make sense really, does it? But Twilight World, a world in the twilight where things are obscured, I guess, gives the song a completely different meaning to what I thought it was about. And hopefully, as in life, things become clearer as the lights come on. Just on another note, I love the phrase "swing out, sister." Actually, it's something I say to people I have affection for, and I want to encourage or enjoy what they say. And I often say, "Swing out, sister." Something I've been saying for years. I hope it's taken the right way. I think it usually is. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is that sometimes life can feel a little like you're living in an episode of the Twilight Zone, or Alfred Hitchcock Presents, or a personal favourite. You may remember this, Tales of the Unexpected, or programmes that are all actually repeated on Sky Arts, by the way, if you want to watch them, or other things when I was growing up in the 90s as a younger man, like The X-Files, or my personal favourite actually was American Gothic. That was a great, it didn't last very long, but that was a great TV series. Or The Outer Limits, or a couple of British ones in more recent times. Or black comedy, you might call them, dark humour, Inside Number 9, or Black Mirror. Or in even more recent times, Stranger Things, and has brought Kate Bush back to our attention here. I'll attempt to sing that without accompaniment. And if I could, I'd make a deal with God and get him to swap our places. Been running up that road, been running up that hill, been running up that building. I'm very sorry there, I was a bit out of tune, but you get what I'm trying to attempt there, don't you? Stranger Things indeed. Apologies to those who have perfect pitch for my out tuneless singing there. The other evening, though, and the reason I'm talking about this, all joking aside, is I actually thought I was in the middle of an Alfred Hitchcock film the other evening. A friend had come round, and we were talking, and after a while I was looking out my window and noticed crows appearing at the large schoolroom on the roof, edge of the roof. I could see them from my window. They were making quite a racket. The noise was quite disturbing, actually. Molly was getting agitated. And I said to my friend, goodness, it feels like an Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Birds. And we kind of made a joke about it, but it really was strange and disturbing. And after a while, Molly got really agitated and began barking at the door and looking at us as if to say, there's something going on. There's something going on. I calmed her down, but she just was not happy. She would not settle. A little later, my friend left, and as he opened the door, Molly shot right outside, and there by the door was a crow. Now, she didn't attack the crow, but she did investigate it, and it trotted away into the garden. And I went out and I got her to come back in, and all the crows above were all squawking, obviously disturbed themselves as they flew around. I directed Molly inside, and as I did, one of the crows swooped down and attacked my friend and pecked him right on his skull, and then flew off again. It was obviously attempting to protect its fallen friend, and my friend was in a state of shock and put his hand to his head, and his scalp was bleeding. It was quite disturbing. He texted his mother because he was going to see a friend of his. He cares for his mother, and a friend of his was sitting with her watching a film, it seems, and he told her what had happened, and she got quite upset with him. They had a conversation, and she thought he was mocking her, joking at her expense, because she said that she was actually at home and had just been watching the Alfred Hitchcock film, The Birds. Indeed. Living in the Twilight Zone. Very mysterious, don't you think? My friend is okay. He went for a tetanus injection the next day, and a doctor and a nurse both looked over him, and they both said that they'd never experienced such a thing before in their lives. No one they know had ever had their head pecked by a crow to the point where it was bleeding and they needed a tetanus shot. And I don't think his mum will be watching The Birds in a hurry. I'm not sure any of us will, actually. But it did leave an impression, an impact, and Molly was not her usual self for the next few days. She's fine now, but she wasn't. And on Sunday, she did something that she's never done before, and it terrified me at the time, actually. It really got into my fear. After we finished the services on Sunday, we went for a walk to John Lee Park. We do it every week, down the back roads, round the back here. It takes about 10 minutes to get there. We were meeting. I texted a friend whose dog is Ronnie, Molly's best friend, and they said they'd meet us there. But we got there early, and as we walked into the park, Molly ran down to the right into the garden area. Sometimes she does this, but she disappeared anyway. I was on my phone. Somebody had called, and I was talking, and normally I'd go into the middle of the park with Molly. But actually, I decided to, as she'd gone to the right, I just sauntered down the pathway as if to walk round the park. I don't normally do that, I have to say. After a few minutes, she'd not arrived, and I called out to her, and she didn't appear. So I went looking for her in the garden area, calling out. There was no sign. I searched and I searched, but I could not find her. At this point, about 15 minutes later, my friend arrived with Ronnie. Still no sign. We began looking for Ronnie together. Fear began to take a hold at this point, and I was asking people if they'd seen her. No one had seen her. The whole park was looking for her at this point. I then bumped into a friend, Jenny Louise, who, just as it happens, is a dog psychologist. And she told me that her dog had once done something similar, and it ended up running all the way home. Now, her home was much nearer to the park than where I live. She explained to me that Molly may well have just reappeared where she ran off, and found me not there, and caught my scent as we'd appeared earlier, and gone home looking for me, I guess. So my other friend, agreed to walk the route with Ronnie while I waited in the park and searched for Molly in case she reappeared. She was not in the park. Well, it was a very long 10 minutes wait, I can assure you, until my friend rang me to tell me that there Molly was, sat happily waiting on the doorstep. And she must have walked all the way around, and actually even further round, because she couldn't have got through the gate herself. The gate was closed, so she had to walk right round the front and up the steps of the chapel and then into the gardens. But she knows the route. She knows her way home. She's a clever little girl. You can imagine my relief. And I don't think I've ever hugged anyone as hard as I've hugged Jenny. I was so grateful, so relieved. Yeah, gratitude is a gift of the night, as Elie Wiesel said. Yeah, it comes from getting, when you're really relieved of something you could have lost. So full of relief. All was well. The last few days, though, have shown me the power of fear. And life, as it settled down, I've noticed the power of fear again. And on Monday, I was exhausted. But I think it wasn't just the events of the last few days and a few other things. It's just the last few months I've not had any time off for a long time, and I've had so much to deal with, actually, and I think it's taken its toll. A good friend had a good conversation with me, and I met up with some other friends later, and we talked too. And that evening, I did something I've been thinking of doing for some time. I joined in with a choir that I'd heard singing at the town hall, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. There were some 60 people there I didn't know. They made me feel very, very welcome. When I first arrived, as is usually the case with me, I was quiet, but I soon got into the spirit of things, and certainly soon got into the singing. And actually, I did know one of the people there who kind of took me under his wing and guided me and made me feel welcome and helped me with some of the music. And you know what? It was just what my heart had been longing for, what my heart desired. The next morning, I was laughing about it with another friend, Rob. Especially, I kind of made a joke about some of the people, very over the top, what you might call a lovey, I guess. And to which he said something like, well, in a few weeks, you'll be the biggest lovey of them all, won't you? And he's right, because once feel comfortable and I find my voice, then I'll be flying, won't I? But Monday night was certainly what my soul needed. I found my bliss again. I found the courage to truly be me. And what I know, and what's been proved again, is courage, and the love at the heart of courage will always transform fear into something beautiful. You cannot live in fear, but you can live in love. And that's what happened. Yeah, looking back, it's felt like I've been living in the Twilight Zone recently, a place I don't wish to step into again. And as I was reflecting on Monday afternoon, I was thinking about horror movies, really, and thriller movies, and why we put ourselves through them. Why do we watch them, really, if you think about it? Why do we like to frighten ourselves, get the heart going? And I suspect it's rooted in a fascination that we have with fear, with the dark side, I guess. I've also been looking at the birds in the gardens more closely. I love the birds that live with me. They sing the most beautiful songs. But yet, as I witnessed on Thursday, they can turn just like anybody and anything can turn when they're under threat or one of their loved ones is under threat. It's an animal instinct, from our animal hearts, a response to fear, a healthy response to fear, actually, because it protects us, or it protects those that we love. Something that we need to have in our lives, something we shouldn't fear itself, actually. Have you seen the film, though, The Birds? A classic 1960s kind of horror thriller directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It's loosely based on a story by Daphne du Maurier, very loosely based, by the way. The film is set in a California seaside town that is suddenly, and for reasons that are never explained actually, inexplicably, it becomes the subject of a series of widespread and violent bird attacks. It was a terrifying film in its day, and no doubt instilled fear of birds in a whole generation. It still works today, you know. Hitchcock truly was the master of the suspense thriller. He knew how to tap into that fear that lurks within us all. And I remember as a child watching some of his films and some other films that really tapped into that place of fear and fright inside of me. And fright's a good, healthy instinct, actually. We need the fright instinct to protect us. Fear has the power to inhibit, but it also has the power of allure too. I remember those terrifying public information broadcasts from the 1970s as a child. Those images stay with me too. About the dangers of railway lines and electric pylons, and perhaps the one that really got me, Lonely Water, with the terrifying voice of Donald Pleasance. Not a pleasant voice in that film anyway, or some of his other films. Yeah, we remember them. They really got us. But you know what? I don't know if we really heeded the danger. In many ways, it kind of made them more enchanting to many young people, certainly some of my friends and myself at times. When I think of the more exciting memories of my childhood, they were laced with danger, you know. And I also remember a collection of video nasties that my stepdad somehow got hold of from, well, I know who from, but I'm not going to say. And finding his stash, his collection, if you like, and watching them. And the utter horror of them, and the waking nightmares and terrors I suffered as a result of watching them. There's a zombie film that's still etched in my soul from one of these Italian zombie films that a child of 10 should not have been watching, I guess. Far too young. Not that anybody knew I was watching. I found them. I was excited by them. I wanted to watch them. But it was a big mistake. My psyche could not cope. And yet, having said all that, there was one cinematic, if you like, childhood memory that's haunted me the most, and it was from a Saturday night episode of Hammer House of Horror, probably on after Tales of the Unexpected or something. Again, I'd probably be about 10 or something watching this. And it was a werewolf tale. But it stays so vividly in my psyche. Of course, it terrified me at the time. And the image that had the real impact was an image of the beast at the window in the black of night, and the person seeing the image in his window and then turning round, and the beast is there in the room with him. It's etched on my memory as I speak of it now, and for years it affected me to such an extent that at night I dared not look out at the glass of my bedroom in case the beast appeared. Even to this day, there is a part of me that feels nervous if I look through a glass darkly, to quote St. Paul. And I kind of refelt that feeling when those crows appeared that I could see through the window the other evening. There is a power, there is an allure in fear. It's something we all experience. It can overtake the rational mind, and many exploit this fear in others. People exploit fear all the time. Something that's intensified in recent times in this age of multimedia and instant 24-hour rolling news, where they tap into people's fear. Fear of the other, fear of all sorts of things. There are forces that feed fear and paranoia in people, a power that at times can end up controlling our lives, or we hand our lives over to others to control through fear. A fear that can take over our rational reasoning mind, a fear beyond reason. A fear that can cause deep distrust of people, especially those we may consider other. Can keep us penned in, stuck at home, utterly paralysed. And it's not good, nor is it rational. It blows the fear out of all proportion. It goes way beyond the fright instinct and inhibits our lives. Fear comes in many forms, and we need not be in fear of fear itself. Fear is a vital part of our makeup, of our animal heart. It sets the pulse racing and it heightens our awareness. Fright is a vital instinct. We cannot live without it, actually. For fright points to danger. It's a kind of warning signal of danger that we physically need. Otherwise we'd just walk into the road or something. Having said that, there are many other forms of fear which are not so useful. And the most debilitating of all, of course, is dread. Dread and other forms of debilitating fear can overwhelm us and lead to crippling forms of anxiety which can inhibit us from simply living and being in this world. When we are overcome by such emotions, everything can appear bleak. Our senses become dulled. It drains all the colour and the taste and the flavour from life, which leads us to projecting our anxiety and our worry onto everything that we do in life. It takes the very life out of living and it leads to abject misery. It drags us into pits of depression and traps us in the very things that we believe protect us from present danger. And as a result, we go deeper into ourselves and we get lost and we get trapped in our black holes of doom and of gloom. It can be very difficult to find our way out of these states of being. It sucks the life out of us and it stops us being who we really are. It stops us being all that we can be. Such is the power of dread, and there are those that will exploit it. So, how do we overcome the power of such debilitating fear? How do we find the courage just to be? Something I experienced once again as I came through Monday. Well, this may not surprise you to hear. It's not that complicated. All it takes is just a little faith and a little love to create the courage just to be. It's an active thing though. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Which of course it is simple, but it's not always so easy. And actually, it brings to mind another song, some lyrics of a favourite hymn actually. And the hymn is, "Others Call It God." And the verse of the hymn goes something like this. Hopefully my ear's back in now. A picket frozen on duty, a mother starved for her brood, and Socrates drinking hemlock, and Jesus on the rood. And millions who, though nameless, the straight hard pathway trod. Some call it consecration, and others call it God. The straight, hard pathway of faith, though, is not easy. But it is well trod. It really has been well trod down the centuries, and people tread it today. Some powerful images depicted in this verse, and they're of characters who had the courage to do what they believed they were there to do. Whether a picket on duty or a mother looking after her children, or the likes of Jesus and of Socrates, who were willing to sacrifice their lives for love or for truth. Such inspirations, don't you think? Inspirations to me anyway, inspirations perhaps to all of us. Inspirations that can sing to us now, in two of those cases, 2 millennia. They're still speaking now though, and speaking with a powerful love that can overcome any fear. Socrates was charged by the Athenian council with corrupting the minds of the young and of believing in deities of his own invention instead of the gods recognised by the state. Socrates courageously contested the charges against him. But ultimately, he lost, and as a result of this, he was condemned to die. But he accepted the judgment of his peers while responding with these immortal words. The difficulty is not so much to escape death. The real difficulty is to escape from doing wrong, which is far more fleet of foot. Socrates did not fear death because he felt it would take nothing from him of value. As he said to the court, "I have never lived an ordinary life. I did not care for the things that most people care about, making money, having a comfortable home, high military or social rank." Neither did Socrates fear what death would bring, which he saw as either the sweetest sleep or a journey to a better place, a place of justice. As he proclaimed, "Nothing can harm a good man either in life or after death." Socrates would rather have surrendered his life than surrender his integrity. Both in his life as in his death, he perfectly illustrated the courage to be. He had the integrity and therefore the courage to say, "I have a more sincere belief than any of my accusers, and I leave to you and to God to judge me as it shall be best for me and for yourselves." Jesus on the rood, or Jesus on the cross, like Socrates drinking hemlock, is another incredible example of someone living out the courage to be. It is truly an example and a beacon to us all, I would say. Jesus, though, was not immune from fear, which I know some would argue with, but it's there. He experienced fear and he experienced doubt, actually, right at the very end, as he was on the cross. Who wouldn't, by the way? But in the gospel accounts of his life, certainly Mark, he didn't go around quoting scripture all the time, but at the moment, just before his death, he did. That said, he didn't quote the comforting 23rd Psalm, which so many people are comforted by. "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil, for thou art with me." He didn't say those words, didn't cry out those words. No, he cried out the much starker 22nd Psalm, the one before. The one that is answered by the 23rd Psalm, I guess. my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me?" A cry that we all make, no doubt. He did not quote the comforting words, "My cup runneth over." No, he cried out, "I thirst." There is doubt and fear there. And so some will question, well, where's the courage then? Well, the courage is in what comes next. The power, the message, the love is in how he responds to these cries himself as he utters the following words, so powerful. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And in these words lies the essence of Jesus' message of radical love. For Socrates, integrity gave him the strength to be, whereas for Jesus, it was love, the love of God and the love of neighbour as the love for self, the golden rule. He surrendered himself utterly to his purpose and to his God as he uttered those immortal words, "Father, I commend my life unto thy spirit." So there's the faith, there's the courage. But there was fear and doubt beforehand, and that's real courage in my eye, and it's certainly what Paul Tillich talked about when he talked about the courage to be in that wonderful book. It's not that you don't have doubt. In fact, real faith and courage allows doubt, needs it actually, for it to have integrity, I would say, to find that ground of all being. And it's here, I guess, where we find the courage to truly be, to overcome the power of unnatural fear through living in and through love, and through living in and through truth, and through living in and through integrity. Love will always overcome fear. Love will always enable us to find the courage to truly be all that we can be. Again, as that hymn, the verse depicts, it is love that enabled the picket to stand in the freezing cold, to stand up for what they believed in. It is love that motivated the mother to sacrifice herself for her children. It is love that enabled both Jesus and Socrates to make their ultimate sacrifices for something more important to them than themselves, to love and to truth and integrity. Do not fear fear itself. We will always know the emotion of fear. We will always feel fear. We need to feel fear, or at least fright. It's a natural instinct. It's there for a reason. It's part of our animal hearts. Animals have it. Molly had it and responded. The crows, they responded. But we don't need to be enslaved by fear. We don't have to fear the crows perched above us when we pass them in the street, or the other birds. They're not going to attack us. Not for no reason. The truth is, to be free from fear, what do we need to do? Well, we need to live with integrity in and through it. We need to live in and through love. And if we do, the courage to be will simply shine from our being, from our very frail, finite human being. That spirit will come alive. And in so doing, we will liberate ourselves. But we'll do more than that. We'll also become a light to others, who in turn may be inspired to liberate themselves and others too. So let love and truth show us the way to be all that we can be. And I'm going to end this devotion with some words of blessing. You know, we can all bless, and we need to bless more. And we bless by giving ourselves in body, mind, spirit and soul and heart. By giving ourselves wholeheartedly, courageously, courage means heart actually, to life itself. So, may the love that overcomes all differences, that heals all wounds, that puts to flight all fears, that reconciles all who are separated, may that love be in us and among us, now and always. And may God go with us all, and may God do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Amen.